Hello everyone. So I'm in my hotel in Ahmedabad making this video for you. We are on a road trip to Gujarat and I've been having such amazing, such beautiful experiences that they've been truly soul stirring, and that has inspired me to be and experience love. And that's why today I'm again inspired to speak about love. So today I want to speak about the one mistake that we make when we are in love, and that is the mistake of misunderstanding attachment, emotional attachment to be love. So, especially in romantic relationships, whenever you feel that you cannot live away from your partner, you cannot be without them even for one night, or every time you're physically away from each other, you feel insecure, you feel really restless, you feel sad, you suffer, or you feel that you miss them so much that you can't even get them out of your mind for a second, then that, my dear friends, is a sign of emotional attachment, and that is not love. Unfortunately, we fool ourselves all the time saying that, I love my partner so much that I cannot be away from them. Recently, I met a friend of mine who was going through a very painful divorce, and they were going through the separation after 18 years of being together. And one of the things she mentioned to me was in the last 18 years of her married life, there was not even one single night that they spent away from each other. She didn't even go to her mother's house and stay the night over there, because her husband would say that in the day you do what you want, but at night I really need to be with you because that makes me feel secure and because I really love you. So initially it was a nice feeling that, somebody needs me so much. But after a while that started to get suffocating, because love is a very uplifting energy. It's the energy of giving. It's the energy of abundance. It's not an energy that makes you fall. It's not an energy that causes suffering and sorrow. Love can never ever cause pain. So if you're experiencing any form of emotional pain in love, then my dear friends, that is not love. Now, I don't say that you don't love your partner, you don't love your spouse, but in those moments when you're experiencing pain and sorrow and suffering, and when you're reacting from that place of emotional attachment, in those moments, you are not loving your partner. And that is really unfortunate because we really want to love them, right? The reason we are even suffering and the justification that we give ourselves is because I love them so much. But if I really love them so much, then love demands that I also set them free, because love is all about giving space. Love is all about freedom. When you're suffocating somebody, then that is not love. So how do you recognize attachment versus love? The moment you experience pain, you suffer, you experience sorrow, that definitely is not love. What's happening is that you are allowing your inner happiness to be dependent on that person. So their physical presence or being constantly connected with them makes you feel secure and happy. And that means that your inner happiness is completely dependent on them. And that is a state of attachment, because mentally you have held on to them and you don't want to let go of them. It's like physically attaching yourself to something. If I get physically attached to another human being, or even if I get physically attached to an object, it's going to be irritating, right? I cannot move along for a long time. I will need to separate. I will need to give that space. It's the same thing with mental attachment. Mentally, we hold on to the other person to such an extent that we move away from who we are. We move away from our core. We move away from ourselves, and therefore we no longer have access to our own inner resources of love, joy, happiness, and abundance. Say you have a lot of treasures in your house and you've left your house without taking the keys. Now when you go outside and you meet some person who's suffering and you know that your treasures can help them, but in that moment, you cannot help them because you yourself do not have access to those treasures, because you have not taken the keys with you. This is very much the same thing. You move away from your own inner source. You move away from your core and you identify with the other person to such an extent that mentally you're clinging on to them. So whatever happens to them, that also impacts you. That is number one. And number two is that you, because you don't have access to your own inner resources of love, happiness, and joy, you cannot give them anything, and you end up in a state of extreme need. You end up being needy. You are always in a state of wanting and craving. And that, my dear friends, is a very, very selfish state to be in. And that definitely is not love. Now, that's one side of the attachment spectrum. There's also the other side of the attachment spectrum, and I think I am a little bit on the other side. And I've also been struggling with that kind of an attachment, where you get attached to your own space and freedom. So I had a friend again recently that I was having a conversation with. Her husband works in the Merchant Navy. So usually he's away from home for like 6 to 7 months in a year. And in the beginning, that separation seemed painful. But over a period of time, she got so used to being alone and she got so attached to her own space and her own freedom that now whenever the husband comes, it becomes very uncomfortable for her, because somewhere she feels that this person is interfering, is entering into my space. I experienced this a couple of weeks as well. My husband and son were away to their village and they were supposed to return the next day. So I had made my plans because I had the whole day with me and, I had so many things to finish. And I was very happy that I will have this one day just for myself, that much needed space. And then what happened was they just returned, and they returned earlier than expected. And they just returned without even informing me. And suddenly I had to get up and adjust my schedule and cook dinner for them. And, I found myself getting really irritated. Instead of being happy that the people that I love the most have come back, I started getting irritated. And I actually found myself telling my husband, why did you return earlier? So now that is also another form of attachment, where you are so attached to your own space and your own freedom that you, even if the person that you love the most comes into that space, you don't want them to come. That is also a form of attachment. Because again, your state of inner happiness and peace is dependent on your environment, which is not in your control. Now, so my dear friends, unfortunately, a good majority of us are on either sides of the attachment spectrum. We are all in love with somebody, but whenever we're in love, we always find ourselves getting attached, which means we walk away from our core and we lose access to our own inner resource of love. Now, I'm not some kind of a love guru who's sitting here to give solutions to these issues, but what has always worked for me is to become aware that every time I react emotionally from a place of attachment, in that moment, I stop loving. The moment I'm aware of this, awareness is the first step to transform that energy of emotional attachment and dependency to true, real, genuine love. So let's just be more mindful, be more aware of our own inner reactions. The moment we are in pain, let us just be aware that even though this pain and this attachment seems normal and natural, this is not love. Let us just remind ourselves that in these moments, when I'm getting irritated or when I'm experiencing any kind of negative emotion, this cannot be a state of love. And that awareness will help me shift from a place of attachment to a place of love. So, my dear friends, let's tap into our own inner resource of love. Let's emerge, experience, spread, and share the energy of love. Thank you.